All right, let's take a moment to talk a little bit about everyone's favorite topic, counting calories, right? So a lot of people will say, well, calorie counting is stupid, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't work, so on and so forth. And the reason I want to discuss this, my friend Nick Norwich did a recent experiment where, and he's a pretty thin guy, weighs about 130 pounds. He decided that he was going to try to eat 6,000 calories a day of food, a lot of it was fat, to see if he could gain weight, and turned out over a week, he did not gain any significant weight. He ate in supposedly a calorie surplus of around 27,000 extra calories that week, above and beyond what he is required to consume for his basal metabolic rate. And by that calculation, he should have gained somewhere in the neighborhood of about 7 pounds. Now, why did he not gain anything? And equally, I am in the process of leaning out, and I dropped my calories from 4,500 calories to about 3,500 calories. First week or so, I didn't lose anything. Did not even lose a single pound. And now I'm losing weight. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But when we talk about calories, one of the problems is it's very difficult to even know how much we're eating, because we know that if you look at a label on a box, there's about 20% error rate in that. So you could be 20% more or 20% less on that. Depends how much you absorb. Some of the calories you absorb, some of them you don't. So that's another variable that goes into this. There is the interaction of our microbiome. Sometimes the microbiome eats some of our calories, and sometimes they produce some short-chain fatty acids which we absorb, which does in turn equate to absorbing some energy, but that relationship isn't one-to-one. So sometimes we lose out. The bugs get more of the calories than they give us. So there are a number of variables on that consumption side. And then it's hard, some of the foods, like for instance, I eat a lot of mostly steaks. And one ribeye steak that's 1 pound may be very different in the amount of calories it contains. As I mentioned, there's that error rate, depending how fatty it is. How did I cook it? If a lot of the fat is drained off, it's hard to predict. So there are some inherent problems with trying to be accurate, just counting the calories and then how much actually gets absorbed. And then on the calories outside of the equation, there's a host of things. Now, Nick, when he did his experiments, he noticed a couple things. One is he kind of kept the same activity level, just try to keep the variables as minimal as possible. But his heart rate went up and his basal temperature went up. And he checked his temperature every morning when he got up, and he noticed that he was running, 1 to 2 degrees higher. Now, those are things that you can't really control how fast your resting heart rate is, in general. I mean, being athletically fit can help lower it in many cases. But you think about that. There are times, and there are animals that, literally when they go into like some of these crocodiles and sharks when they're resting, I think some of these animals can get down to a heart rate of about 5 beats per minute. And they're almost like in a state of stasis. So heart rate consumes calories. The faster our heart beats, the more calories we're using. So when the heart rate goes up, while he's overeating, well, some of those calories are being burned during his heart rate. The other thing is his temperature went up, and it costs roughly, some estimates say, 1,000 calories a day just to maintain our body heat. So you can imagine if our temperature goes up a degree or two, that's going to also consume more calories. Not to mention energy losses that may occur in the form of, say ketosis. If you go more heavily into ketosis, you start excreting more energy. You just blow it off, you pee it off, you sweat it off. So there's energy that's excreted in that way. There's losses, like as I mentioned before, from your feces. Some of that you just don't absorb. So for some people, they'll do these short-term experiments. Oh, I ate an extra 5,000 calories a day when I'm only supposed to eat 3,000 calories, and I didn't gain any weight for a week. And so there are these adaptations that can occur, and I can explain that, I think, in large part because it has to go somewhere. Now, how long will those adaptations last? How long before you start to re-equalize and then the change happens? I suspect if you do this longer and longer, you may see some tendency towards that. Now, again, obviously, different foods clearly impact our metabolism differently. Different foods clearly impact how much we absorb. Different foods clearly impact our body heat, things like that. The Eskimos were known, or the Inuit were known in the wintertime, particularly when they're cold, to consume more seal oil because it helped them to raise their body temperature. And that was a very needed thing in the environment they lived in. So the whole concept of calorie counting has a lot of problems with it just on being accurate. calories in, calories out, but it's really hard to predict your accuracy. And I've not figured out a way to control my body heat. I mean, I can sweat and do exercise, but over the long term, of course, throughout the day, how much body heat I'm emitting at night, so on and so forth. So it's very interesting to see these phenomenon. I think that, for my purposes, even within the context of a carnivore diet, there is a point where I can eat a certain amount of calories or food, 3 ribeye steaks a day, and I'm pretty stable. If I increase that a little bit, maybe I don't gain weight for a while because I'm having all these adaptations, higher body heat, higher heart rate, more losses through, heat and whatnot. After a certain point, maybe I go higher and higher, then I will start to gain. And the same thing, there's kind of this period where you just kind of, 3.5 pounds to 2.5 pounds kind of stable. You get much below that, then your body can't compensate for that. So interesting thought. Let me know what you guys think. Have you noticed similar experiences? I know over the short term, many would say, well, I ate a whole bunch. I overate on vacation and gosh, I didn't gain any weight or something, or I cut my calories back and gosh, I didn't lose any weight. And it may be a time thing. It may be an adaptation thing. It may be, we just didn't go high or low enough potentially. So interesting stuff here, guys. I mean, calories are a relevant way to talk about things. I know our body's not a Bunsen burner. I mean, and it's an open system, as Ben Bikman pointed out. So we have all these losses that they're hard to account for. So it sort of makes sense in a general way to say that calories have a role, but they're not the only thing that matters. And the food's impact on our hormones and metabolism also has a significant say in how things are utilized. All right, guys, let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you soon.